Going on a long canoe trip was a life-changing experience for me.
How did I ever think this wasn't the greatest thing in the world?
There's something about the canoe, and especially a cedar strip canoe, that makes you fall in love with the water.
You talk about your day, you talk about, remember that poor time, remember how hard that one part was.
We have trips from 2 to 50 days. The youngest kids will only do an overnight, and then even as you get to be 10, 11, 12, you're still only tripping for 3 or 4 days. The first long trip most campers do is called Kippawa. It's 3 weeks long, and the July trips will start in Quebec, and they'll finish actually at our outpost camps.
It's great to get to go on a 36-day canoe trip or a 42-day canoe trip, and the experiences that you can bring back from that are like nothing else.
The trips are spread so far over Ontario and literally travel thousands of kilometers in one canoe trip.
It starts in Quetico Provincial Park and it actually crosses down into Minnesota into an area called the Boundary Waters, and the trip finishes in the States with like a 14-kilometer portage, and then they fly back into Toronto.
So they'll start in Superior, for example, in some cases, near Agawa Canyon, and make their way back through the Montreal all the way and paddle right into Algonquin Park. For them, the experience and the challenge of actually being able to map out and see where they're going is incredible.
Lots of canoeing, you get lots of exercise, and it's really fun. You see a lot of wildlife, there's peace and quiet time, and then you get to just sit around a campfire eating the trip food, and it's just an amazing experience.
Well, I just like canoeing, and it's a really fun thing to do.
We need to make sure that our kids are safe when they're out on a canoe trip. So we've invested in providing wilderness first aid training during pre-camp.
All the long trips we send out now, they all have sat phones. Even though you are in a remote location, you're always able to communicate with camp and be safe.
We have remained pretty true to the tradition of how we trip, but our canoes have stayed the same. We build them all here.
I'm Dave Stanfield. I'm the head of the canoe shop. I think we're the only camp that has a canoe builder full-time. Most anybody who knows anything about canoeing will tell you that a cedar canvas canoe is a nicer canoe to paddle more than anything else. Back in the early 90s, we had this mold that we weren't doing anything with, and I'd spent enough years just fixing and repairing canoes that I was getting kind of tired of that, and I felt I needed a challenge. So I sort of fixed up the mold and decided that maybe we should try building canoes with the kids during the summer. I felt like a lot of the kids didn't really appreciate the canoes around here. It's very gratifying to go walk down to main camp and hear the kids talking about, you know, the 2009 Algonquin Special. They seem to know the canoes by the dates, by the year they were built, and that, I mean, I never envisioned that. But I love working with wood. I love talking to people about canoes. I love seeing kids come in. I love the location. I love being in Algonquin Park. I love the site. I love my shop.
The challenge, being close to nature, having nothing but you and your friends and your little bit of stuff.
It's great exercise, and then getting back in the boat and going again.
Your whole life you're bombarded with so much kind of stimuli in the city, and you don't even realize until you take yourself out of that environment what canoe trip is actually like.
You know, the best reward of the day is getting to the campsite, getting unpacked, and being able to relax.
It's as challenging as you want to make it.
You learn to conquer your fears.
You're in it together, and it's the time of your life.
To push off and have no idea where you're going or no idea what to expect.
So there's a huge connection between not only what kids get from it on a trip with their, their cabin group, but also people who have done it before.
A big part of what I've been talking to the CITs about this summer is making canoe trip comfortable for people who haven't been at camp before.
You remember your canoe trips, and you remember all the great little things that your counselors did, and you want to do the same for your kids.
I love it when the little kids, they go on their first canoe trip and they come back and they're so excited to come back to camp again.
It's not necessarily just a matter of getting to one campsite to another, get the miles behind you, but actually taking it in and seeing where you're going.
It's an incredible experience to be with 7 or 8 other people for that amount of time in the woods.
And you spend 42 days, or even upwards to 50 days in the woods together. You're with them 24 hours a day. There's no escaping them. They come back, and like that's a major bond.
There's no other place you get to experience nature in such a close setting.
And they say if you do the Bisco trip or the 50th trip, you're coming back with 8 brothers.
It was so great.
It is
Oh my God.
One word to describe canoe tripping.
Joy.
Rewarding.
Powerful.
Nature, freedom.
Challenging. But you can't leave it at just challenging. You've got to do challenging but rewarding.
Bye for now.